Terrell.
Good morning, everyone. I want to welcome you. Welcome to our Best Start Regional meeting for the month of May. I'm glad you joined us. We're going to go ahead and get started. Give me a moment. I'm going to share my screen with you, and then we are going to get started shortly. All right. Again, I want to welcome you. This is our Best Start Regional meeting, and we are so excited about what will be taking place today. We have a full agenda, so get comfortable, get ready. Make sure you check the chat box. My coworker Stephanie has put in the link to sign in. Make sure you do that. We want to capture everyone that's come to our meeting, so please sign in. I know it's a little late. However, we want to wish everyone here a happy Mother's Day for all the moms, G moms, that we call that grandmas, God moms, mama figures. Happy Mother's Day. And it's not a day we deserve a month. Actually, we should just celebrate all year long, but that's neither here nor there. But we want to say happy Mother's Day to you from Best Start. This is our agenda for today. So take a look. We have a special presentation from our new LNC, AVPH. We want to welcome them. Our ladies are here, and we are super excited that they have joined us. We are having a blast working with them. We also want to recognize our Asian Pacific Islander Heritage Month. We have a presentation as well, 2 presentations. Sgt Jeffrey Walker for our sex trafficking, and Kipp Mueller for our redistricting of the Antelope Valley. And we have our updates as well. Again, we want to welcome, if you are new, if this is your first time to one of our Best Start regional meetings, do me a favor, just use one of those emojis, wave your hand, raise your hand, and we want to say welcome. Thank you for joining us. You could have been any place else. I know there are a plethora of meetings going on, but thank you for joining us, and we welcome you to our Best Start meetings.
And if anybody wants to introduce themselves, we're more than welcome to learn more about you as well.
Okay, well, this is our newest team, our LNC from AVPH. If you can, give them a round of applause, clap for them. Some heart, some love for Teresa, Flora, and Jessica. We are already so super excited that they are a part of our Best Start team meeting, our newest LNC. In fact, so much so, they have something special that they're going to be sharing with you. So I am going to right now stop sharing. And I'm going to turn this over to Flora, who has a special presentation. Flora, our newest team member from AVPH. Flora, take it away, girl.
Thank you, Dorel. Thank you. So like Dora said, I am Flora. I'm part of the, I'm one of the new members to the Best Start team. And we were just thinking about how to make things easy to connect. We started talking about like the QR codes and how those could be a little challenging to use. So talk came about, and I don't know how this happened, but it was like, why don't you record a video, you know? And we decided to do that, take on the challenge. We are not actors or actresses, but what we wanted to do was just kind of give an idea of how to use a QR code and then how easy it is to register for our meetings. And that way you can share that information with others. So let me do this. I'm gonna share my screen. You might notice some others there. That's Jessica.
Yes, you can connect with us on Facebook.
I hope everyone can hear it.
We do. Do you know about us?
Yeah, I used to go when you were at Lancaster.
virtually, and what we did is we combined Palmdale, Lancaster, and we're Best Start Antelope Valley.
Can you turn up the volume just a little bit more?
Yes, please.
That's
thank
all
you.
it goes.
So to get connected, you need to register. We'll send you the links for our Zoom meetings via email.
Did you say Best Start?
Yes.
What Best Start? Is that like the Betty Crocker, how you would fix something? Is it started in a box and all that?
No, actually, our Best Start program is an initiative program to help prevent and reduce child abuse here in the Antelope Valley.
Oh, that is so wonderful. How y'all do it? How you work it, girlfriend?
Oh, what we do is we offer free resources for families and community members. We do regional meetings, we have workshops, and we have other resources to get connected to the community.
Well, how do you get to the workshop? Do you call them? How do you get the information?
So what we do is you go virtually with the Zoom platform, and you log into our meetings.
Virtual, no, I can't do all that.
Why not?
It's too hard.
No, come back. It's actually not quite hard. What we do is we get to meet each other virtually through video Zoom calls. So do you ever call your family members through a video call?
Well, no, I use my phone.
Oh yes, you can use your phone. If you'd like, I can show you how to get connected via the QR code.
Oh, no, that QR, that's like that thing they stick up your nose for the COVID.
No, it actually isn't. Come back. This is QR code is just this little box right here, and what we do is you use your phone to scan it so you can register your email.
Oh, all right, well, just show me what you mean, tell me.
Yes, do you have your camera with your, do you have your phone?
Yes,
Yes.
I do.
Okay, I can show you. You're gonna
My boyfriend, James, gonna be calling me. He don't like me to be late, so I hope this ain't gonna take forever now.
Well, lucky for us, this only takes about 1 minute, and I can help you right now.
All right, I will do my best.
Right, so I just need, if you could open your camera, and you're gonna point it at this box right here.
Point it at this box right here.
And you should see a link pop up. Do you see something?
Oh, look at that. It says web address or options.
Yes, go to the web address, and right there you're gonna have all our different options.
Ooh, this is amazing. I love it. Thank you, young lady. I'll make sure I go to the Best Start.
Yes, so you're gonna register for the regional meeting. You're gonna click right there on the first tab.
All right.
Yes. And then I'm gonna show you how to add your information.
Well, yo diggity. I like the way you work it.
Yeah, so you're just gonna put your name, your last name, and your email.
Amazing. Thank you. I done did it. I feel proud.
Oh, yes, and I would love to see you there. I would love to see you there. Our meetings are every third Thursday of each month.
Well, thank you.
Yes, so please feel free to take any items, and I will see you ladies. Hopefully you were able to get your registration completed.
I did. I filled it out already. It's easy.
Thank you. Okay, I'll see you ladies. Bye.
That was it. We hope that it's helpful to people, and we hope we hope it'll be beneficial.
Thank you so much, Flora. That was so cute. And to know that they did that at AVPH and just the creativity. Thank you so much. So yes, it's teaching how we are now wanting folks to connect with us with our QR code. Thank you so much. Give me one moment. Again, thank you, our team. Next, we have coming up, there we go. Give me one more. Sorry about that, y'all. Yes, in conjunction with our special time for our Asian Pacific as well as our islanders. I want to say we're giving recognition to our Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month is observed in the United States during the month of May. This month, recognizing the contributions and influence of Asian Americans and Pacific Islander Americans to the history, culture, achievements of the United States. So thank you for all that you have done, and we recognize our fellow residents that are of the Asian American and Pacific Islander this month. Next, we have Sergeant Jeffrey Walker from the Special Victims Bureau coming. I'm going to turn this over to my coworker, Sylvia, and she take it from here. Sylvia.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Today, we're really excited to welcome Sergeant Jeffrey Walker, who is a 33-year veteran of the LA County Sheriff's Department, whose previous deputy assignments include the Hall of Justice Jail, Lakewood Station, and Special Victims Bureau Child Abuse Detail. He promoted to sergeant in 2006 and has worked at Men's Central Jail, Temple Station, Major Crimes Bureau, Vice Detail, and his current assignment as founding member of the LA Regional Human Trafficking Task Force. He served on the original working committee for the LA County First Responders Protocol, which has become a national model on how other cities and counties will respond to CSEC, excuse me. Again, thank you, Sergeant Walker, for being here with us today.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me. It's a privilege to be here, and all you ladies work really hard at what you do up in the AV, and I know our Lancaster Station deputies are super busy up there, so you got your hands full up there with public health, so we definitely appreciate it. Let me go with sharing the screen here, and I'll get started with a little bit of human trafficking here, what it looks like. Can everybody see my screen?
Not yet.
Okay. All right. Let me go back here. Let me go share screen. There we go.
There, now it's starting.
Okay, got it.
Yep, there you go.
Okay, so when we're discussing human trafficking, there's really two types. There's international and domestic, really, and then within there, there's sex and labor. So when you're talking about international trafficking, you can have a combination of sex or labor. When you're talking about domestic human trafficking, you're really going to be talking about just sex. A lot of our domestic victims, our U.S. citizen victims, aren't generally labor trafficking victims. At least that's not what we're finding. I suppose it's possible, but it's generally not what we're finding. And then within domestic sex trafficking, you have commercially sexually exploited children. I'm sure I should have spelled that out in my bio. Commercially sexually exploited child. We use that term instead of child prostitute or child hooker or anything like that. The reason is that children under the age of 18 can't consent to sex. Therefore, legally, they can't be a prostitute. So they can't. So we call them commercially sexually exploited children. It's a mouthful, I know. And then within also you can have just adults who are involved in commercial sex. So some of the quick statistics, the average age of entry into prostitution is 12 years old, and that is generally consistent throughout the country. Human trafficking is a $32 billion industry only behind narcotics trafficking, and I think we're even ahead of gun trafficking. 1 in 3 children will be recruited by a trafficker into prostitution within 48 hours of running away from home. Either be recruited or at least have contact made by a trafficker or pimp. At any time, 2 million people worldwide are in some form of slavery. So some of the precipitating factors, things that can cause children to be at risk yeah, just cause children to be at risk. Runaways, running away from home, child abuse and neglect. I remember running away from home. You would, ditch school and hang out and maybe go to a ditch party and smoke some weed, and it was so scandalous. Nowadays, it's not that way. There's pimps because of social media. There's pimps and traffickers looking at your child's social media, and our children generally pour their souls out on social media. Whenever mom is real mean to her or mean to him, they will pour that out on social media. And instead, pimp and back in my day when I was growing up, my parents were like, keep everything. What's at home stays at home. Keep it to yourself. Nowadays, that's not possible, and pimps are looking around to recruit girls who are warring with their parents, who are experiencing drug problems, things like that. And I'll get into that in a second, but running away is huge. Most of these girls are enduring sexual abuse and neglect before the pimp even gets to them. It's like 90% of them have endured some form of abuse, sexual or physical. Psychological or emotional trauma, drug and alcohol in the home. Truancy can be a first indicator. Seeking economic independence, that girl that has got to have that Gucci belt, that's got to have those name brand clothes, and she's going to do whatever she can do to get those name brand things. Obviously, media influence is huge. The music our children listen to, the peer influence, throwaway child, otherwise known as foster kids, those kids that are not currently with parents that are in the foster care system. Learning disabled children are huge. Autistic children are great to be recruited by pimps. Obviously, they have difficulty. They have issues trusting people. They're easier to manipulate. Homelessness and transitional emancipated youth, foster care system kids. So who are the victims? And there's a lot of myths out there surrounding prostitution, and there's a form of thought out there. There's a thought out there that women should be able to do whatever they want, and they should have control over this kind of thing, and they want to do this anyway. They make good money at it, so why not let them do it? So there's the public myths and there's the reality. The problem, the public myths is they choose to do it. But I've never met a girl who grew up playing with her prostitute Barbie and dreamed of being a prostitute one day. Something happened in this girl's life, and it happened worse than others, but something happened that caused them to do this. They're all drug addicts, when in actuality, we're not finding that a lot of them are using hard narcotics. The reason is they got to stay sharp when they're out there. They got to look for other pimps. They got to look for the cops. They got to look for potentially rapey Johns or rapey sex buyers. So they got to have their heads on a swivel. And if they're really high, it's hard for them to do that. Now, when they're not working, when they've made their so-called trap, then yeah, the trafficker might keep them high, feed their habit. And he might even use drugs to keep that over their head. They get to keep the money, when in actuality, aside from the initial grooming behaviors in the beginning, when he's fawning on her with compliments, gifts, and stuff like that, once he's got the hook in and he's made them commercial sex workers, she's lucky to get a Happy Meal. Some of the places pimps go to recruit for their victims. I keep the slide up just as an example of some places, but in actuality, it's really where two people come together. That's really it. They can be recruited in malls, schools, grocery stores, coffee shops. Social media is huge. In fact, I'd probably say it's transitioned over to social media Not almost exclusively, but pretty high up there. It's almost to the point where those days where pimps would be sitting around in front of a school, that's not the case anymore. They don't have to sit in front of the school and expose themselves like that. Bus stops, train stations. We've had girls get recruited out of train stations as they're waiting to go somewhere else. Parties, even church. So the business, how much money exactly can you make performing commercial sex? So you take one girl, 120 for a half hour is good for a juvenile, 16, 17 years old. She can command that kind of money. 160 for an hour date. She does about 8 to 10 dates a day. You can see how the money shakes out. It averages about 6,700 a week, about 11 grand for hour dates, 6,700 a week for half hour dates. That can total up to 300 grand a year for half hour dates, which is the majority of the dates are going to be half hour. Hour dates, $500,000 a year. The pimp gets everything. The girl gets almost nothing. More, and that's one girl. More girls could equal, you can see where the money is going to go up substantially. And of course, they don't pay taxes. So you can see what a money-making operation this is. And the reason why it's so profitable is you can use, as opposed to narcotics, is you can resell the girl over and over and over again, whereas dope, you can only sell it one time. Once you sell that rock of cocaine or that little bindle of meth, it's gone. And then you have to re-up and you have to go get another one. And it's also more dangerous because once you're dealing with other narcotics dealers, many times they're armed. Going and getting go up and re-upping your dope is can be a dangerous thing, especially if you owe money. Whereas a girl, it's very easy, and it's, well, I won't say easy, but it's definitely less risky. So who are the pimps? They generally comprise three types. There's the Romeo pimp, and I would say this is the vast majority of pimps. He tells her what she wants to hear, showers her with compliments and promises and praise, buys her all kinds of things, the grooming behaviors. He'll buy her clothes, he'll get her nails done, he'll get her hair done. He'll buy her, I mean, he's not going to just take her and buy regular clothes. He's going to take her and buy her booty shorts and all that kind of stuff that she's going to have to wear at work. Only lasts for a while, and this is until the manipulation is complete, and then it becomes a combination of force and manipulation. It becomes a combination of both to keep her in pocket. I'd say this comprises the majority of pimps. Almost all pimping encounters start this way. We're not finding, very seldom are we finding that innocent girl walking down the street, the van pulls up and they grab her and they force her to become involved in prostitution. It doesn't work that way. I would say 80% starts like this with a girl that she knows. He's the older boyfriend. He's the older guy that she's falling for. And everything you do to try to get to this guy, you have a difficult time trying to get to this guy. The gorilla pimp. This is the pimp who is just straight up right from the beginning force. He's violent. He's forceful. There is no manipulation. This is seldom what it is. I mean, most of the time the force comes in later. It becomes a kind of a bit of both. We don't find a lot of gorillas right from the beginning. And the reason is if you constantly beat somebody, that doesn't tend to engender loyalty. And even the most loyal woman, and after you beat her up a whole bunch of times, there's a high probability she's going to talk to somebody about that. And you don't want her talking to the cops. So we don't find a lot of gorilla pimps that are like just hugely violent right out from the beginning. The only way we may find this is if a girl gets recruited from this guy, if and then that girl recruits another girl, and then that girl comes in here, and the pimp doesn't feel like he needs to be all Romeo with her. He's just gonna tell her, you know, bitch, get to work, and that'll be it. And then there's the business arrangement. Strictly an arrangement, no force or fear involved. You split the profit. Sometimes the male will be security. He'll be the guy driving her to things like this. Sometimes strippers will fall into this kind of stuff. Whereas this isn't, unless the victim's under 18, it's not human trafficking. It's just straight pimping is what it is. Pimping, the difference between pimping and human trafficking is pimping just involves the acceptance of profits from the proceeds of prostitution, whereas human trafficking requires force, fraud, coercion, or it's automatically human trafficking if the victim's under 18. So some of the places where you'll find human trafficking, you'll find it on the street. You'll find it in hotels or motels, what we call in the business in-call and out-call. In-call is when we, as the cops, go to the girl. The out-call is when she comes to us. Residential brothels, you'll tend to find human trafficking. Strip clubs, maybe you could. Strip clubs aren't that profitable for pimps. The reason is because the girls have to tip everybody out. If you ask any stripper, she'll tell you she has to tip the bartender, she has to tip the DJ, she has to tip the manager, she has to tip the guy that drives her to and from her car. She has to tip everybody. So at the end of the night, these girls actually don't make a whole lot after tips. And the pimp's not much into tipping. Massage parlors, maybe a little bit. We're finding that we don't find a whole lot in massage parlors. The reason is that business right there during business hours could be inspected anytime without a warrant by the health department, by the police, by the licensing code enforcement people, by the fire department, anything. Anybody during business hours can go into that business and take a look around without a warrant. So if you've got girls there that are vulnerable, that maybe are foreign nationals and they're just new arrivals, you don't want a lot of cops poking around, or you don't want a lot of government poking around them. So chances are you're going to put them in a house, in a residence. And the reason is in a residence, obviously we just can't go tripping into people's houses without a warrant. So that's safer to do. Some of the places sex buyers go. These are some of the main sites that we use a lot is the cops to post our ads. Humaniplex is an example of a review site where you have to engage in commercial sex with a girl, and then she verifies you as quote unquote a verified user, and then that's a way for the girls to stay away from the cops, because to get on this site you have to be a verified user, which means a girl has to verify you. Tag is an example of some of the sites that we use just to engage in proactive work. So what we do is in the sheriff's department, we have all of our deputies that come out of the academy. They go to custody first. They go to the jails first, and then they go to patrol. So what we do is we pull a girl out of the jails for 9 months. And the reason is because she looks young and she hasn't had the years of law enforcement haven't set on her face yet after going to patrol and, eating junky food and working odd hours in the night. And we put her online, and she just gets hit. We put her online on sites like this, and then she just gets hit up by perverts and pimps every single day, day in and day out. And then what we try to do is she has conversations with these guys and tries to get to reel them in to come meet her. And then once we meet her, we arrest them for crimes of pandering, which is the recruitment into prostitution. And then there's another crime for arranging a lewd act with a minor. So that's just our proactive stuff on top of the cases that we get from the community from patrol. Instagram's another one. Instagram is obviously very heavily policed by Instagram. So we'll put an ad out here that will like set the hook, so to speak, and then transition to another site. So some of the lingo in the health industry, you may see some of these things, or you may overhear it in a waiting room or out in the parking lot, something like that. So from a healthcare perspective, I just want you to be familiar with some of the lingo and some of the tattoos. So when you hear the lingo or you see the tattoos or a combination of both, you know you might have something and you might want to notify somebody. So for girls on automatic, she's not being directly supervised by her pimp trafficker. As an example, one time we detained a girl in West Covina in a hotel and her pimp was in Sacramento. He didn't have to be there because he trusted her explicitly, so she's on automatic. The bottom girl, that's the main girl. That's the girl who's in charge of recruitment or bringing in other girls. And she's the one that handles the money and she keeps the girls in line. Branding is a tattoo or a carving indicating ownership. It's in a very visible place. Choose up or choose up fee is the process by which a pimp trafficker takes ownership of a victim, and sometimes it accompanies a fee. She has to pay him to work for him. Circuit, cities which the girls are moved, it's usually Vegas, San Diego, LA, Oakland, and maybe sometimes Sacramento, but it's a lot of times it's Vegas, San Diego, LA, that kind of stuff. Daddies, what they call their pimp trafficker. Family of the folks. If the girl says she needs to talk to her family, this may not mean what you think it means. It's what she describes the girls in the stable or the pimp himself. Okay, I need to call my family or call my folks. Or sometimes they'll say, "Do you?" Another girl will ask another girl, "Do you have folks?" That's referring to a pimp or the girls under the pimp. The track, the stroll, the blade, these are all areas known for street prostitution. In Northern California, they tend to use the word stroll. We use track and blade down here in Southern California. Out of pocket, it's when the girl's in active disobedience. She's not obeying what the pimp says. Reckless eyeballing is the act of looking down and away from other pimps. When a girl's out on the street, she's not allowed to look at another pimp or even a guy who could be a pimp. She's not allowed to look at him. If she looks at him, then she can be claimed by him. She'd have to forcibly be chosen up by him. And then if that guy finds out about the other pimp or the other pimp finds out about him, then there's a negotiation and then there's a sale. You want your bitch back, you have to pay X amount of dollars, that kind of stuff. So she's only allowed to look at sex buyers. Renegade is a girl who doesn't have a pimp. Trap is what she has to make at the end of the night. Wifey sister or sister wife or what the girls call each other in the stable. Chop is when she's out of pocket. You have to beat her, so you have to chop her. And when you knock someone or you knock a girl, you've recruited her. She's now working for you. You've knocked her. So tattoos, this could, in the health industry, you could see these things. Now, these tattoos don't necessarily mean that you are involved in prostitution. In fact, some of you ladies may have some of these tattoos. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're involved in prostitution, but this in combination with other things that you may see or hear could lend itself to that. Diamond or a diamond in the rough Yes, the guys the girls will fall for this. She's a diamond in the rough, so give her a diamond tattoo. Unprofessional misspellings. A lot of the pimps aren't rocket scientists. You'd be lucky if they have a high school diploma. So in this one, it said, "In God we trust." So apparently he couldn't spell trust. So that, yeah, he's an idiot. So in obviously unprofessional misspellings, money symbols, and crowns are huge. Crowns and diamonds are the big ones. You might see a money sign there or a money bag, but crowns and diamonds are the big ones. A brand. This is generally where a girl is not going to get a tattoo. It's going to be, as you can see, the pimp's name is King Kong. He had her put that right across her forehead there, right across the back of her legs, or on her forearms. It's going to be, so what this is if, remember I talked about choosing up. However, if this girl's walking down the street, she's got King Kong across her face, then no other pimp can claim her. No other pimp can choose her up because she's branded. So that's King Kong's girl. Nobody can touch her. A brief word about labor, about sweatshops. So this victimology is completely different when you're dealing with foreign national victims as opposed to our domestic victims, our girls. Obviously, with foreign national victims, the thought of deportation weighs very, very heavily. And no matter what we do, no matter what we say or do to try to assure these victims that they are not going to be deported by the cops, it doesn't matter. There's nothing we can do to break through with that, as hard as we try. So they're very distrustful of police due to the corrupt, violent nature of police in that country of origin. The cops in other countries, in Honduras and Guatemala, they're not cool like me. Fearful of deportation, that is huge. That's probably the main thing. Fear of repercussions in the family in the country of origin. If they're recruited from, if they're actually recruited in this country from that country and brought over here, generally that trafficker is going to know people in that village or in that city. And if they get out of line, it's going to be, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill your sister. I'm going to kill your parents, that kind of stuff. Obviously, language and cultural barriers, especially with our Asian American Pacific Islander community. We don't have a great deal of cultural language skills here on the Sheriff's Department. We do our best. We do now have a Mandarin speaker, but there's still many other dialects that pose a problem for us. So as a result, because it's difficult to come across this, most of the time these victims come to us from CAST, which is the Coalition to Abolish Slavery and Trafficking. We seldom uncover them on our own. We just can't go out to that field of migrants out there on the field and say, hey, come talk to us. Everybody, please come talk to us. They're going to freak out. They're going to get scared no matter what we do. So they have to come to us. They have to come to this on their own. They usually come to CAST. CAST is will give them a lawyer and a caseworker and work with them on their immigration issues, and then work with them on reporting to law enforcement, and then they make a decision on whether they want to do that. Many times and not, these people most of the time just want to be here. They really just want two things. They want to A, be in the United States, and B, they want their family safe. If they're in the United States and their family safe, then getting them to become involved in a criminal prosecution is almost impossible. There's no reason for it. Their version of justice is different from ours. They're just happy to be here. Even if they're getting totally ripped off with their pay, it's still going to be twice as much as what they'd be making in their country of origin anyway. So they're generally fine here, unless the force, if there's a great deal of force or physical brutality, They may be more prone to come in to report to law enforcement. Generally, they're not. And the difference between trafficking and smuggling. Thank you. My daughter just brought me Starbucks. Yay. Trafficking and smuggling is oftentimes confused. So smuggling is a crime against the border. It's not against a human. Many times these foreign national victims want to be smuggled. They've paid somebody to smuggle them in. So that is not a crime that we in local law enforcement prosecute. We have or investigate. We have nothing to do with smuggling at all. Trafficking is a crime against the person. That is what we investigate. Now, smuggling can lend itself into trafficking, hence why we do somewhat become involved in smuggling, at least in terms of having it reported to us, and then we report it to our federal partners, and we kind of lightly parallel that investigation in hopes that it'll lend itself to trafficking later on. We couldn't do this work without our NGOs. And the reason is because our NGO, we can't take these victims home with us. And these victims are different from, say, anybody on this call here or on this Zoom meeting, where if you get your car stolen, all I have to do is just go and I find the bad guy who did it. I just have to drive up to you, slap a subpoena in your hand and say, be in court. Got it? I'll see you there, right? Whereas these victims, you can't do it. You can't just slap a victim in, you just can't slap a subpoena in their hand and say be in court, because 9 times out of 10, these girls love their trafficker. They're in love with their trafficker. They believe that they're fiercely loyal to him. So it would be like me asking you to testify against your husband or significant other. It's something that you could possibly do, but it's not something I could just do in one day. Just slap a subpoena in your hand and say be in court. So these girls need a lot of support. They need a lot of therapy. They need a lot of help. And I'm not a therapist. I can't provide that support. Then law enforcement, that's not our lane. That's not what we do. So we have to leave that to the professionals. So these are all the things that our NGOs do. Our main one is Saving Innocence. This is the main NGO for adult and juvenile sex trafficking for the task force. In the Antelope Valley for juveniles, it's Zoe Project or Zoe International. But everybody can just go through Saving Innocence, and everything can get routed to the appropriate place. So I have a quick video on with Ori here.
My name is Ori. I am bold, brave, blunt, willing to fight my hardest. And that comes from a lot of the things that I've been through in my life. I have not always been this strong. I got bullied a lot. I was always either this weird kid or somehow didn't fit in. I was born in Chowchilla State Prison. My mother was fighting murder at the time when she had me. At 2 days, I was adopted by a single mother who worked 3 jobs in order to provide for me. I had a very normal childhood in the very beginning up until the age of 8, when I was molested by a family friend. By the time I was about 9.5, 10 years old, I experienced a rape, and there was no justice that was ever served. When the cases were dropped, DCFS got involved very, very minimum. I didn't receive any counseling. My mother never had a conversation with me about it. I think it was very hard for her. So it was all these feelings of like insecurity and feeling like I don't belong, guilt and shame and dirtiness was bottling up inside. You know, I always say that like kids, when they run away, they're not running to something, they're running from something. Anywhere was better than my home. Like anywhere was safer than my home. Anywhere where someone would just notice me and just ask me, was I okay, was gonna be better than going through this. I ended up running away and met a friend. We went to this house, which was like a drug house. She left me and said, I'll be right back. In that house was a male sitting on the couch right next to me and another beautiful woman in the back. For the first time in my life, somebody asked me, was I okay? After the rapes, after the molestation, after all the bullying, somebody finally asked me, was I okay? I told that man my life story in 30 seconds. And he didn't have to come and look for me. Like he didn't have to come hunt like how normal a lot of these traffickers do. I flew right on his doorstep. I was a kid in need. I needed shelter. I needed clothes. I needed food. And I was going to need someone to take care of me because I was only 11 years old. And I just remember this look in his eye was just like this. I got her. And I spoke to the woman that I seen. I remember her asking me and talking to me and sharing her story about how she was molested by her stepfather and things like that. So now I feel like, oh, now we have something in common. She's just like me. He said, well, I'm getting ready to take her to work. And we got out there. We were on Long Beach Boulevard. And I remember him telling me about the life. And he started to groom me. And then that grooming process is he was preparing me to be trafficked. And I remember when she came back, he said, you're going to show her what to do. She's going to go with you. And I remember just freaking out in the back seat, like scared. He got out, was yelling, why are you crying? And he hit me. I want to just go home. I want to go home. And he was just like, where are you going to go? Nobody.
Oh.
He wants you. And I believe those lies. And he grabbed me by my hair and drugged me down the street. My knees were scraping the floor. There was other women out there. Nobody did anything. When you have been forced to sleep with 7 to 15 men and be raped and be 11 years old, I was like slowly dying. And after the first night, you suppress those feelings because any inch of hope that you have, any sense of I can get out, any feeling of there's a God, any feeling of I don't deserve this, you ain't gonna survive out there. I actually grew up in church. My grandmother was a deaconess, so I knew of God. As I got older, though, and after the things that took place, I became very distant. There couldn't have been no God, like, in allowing someone to do this to this kid. There couldn't be this God that, at 11 years old, sitting in court, and mom says, I don't want her anymore. Like, there couldn't have been a God. Nowhere to go. No family wanted to take you in. Like, there couldn't have been a God. And that was hard for me. Being on the streets and having to survive, and I'm thinking about right now, how am I going to get through this day? So God was just, for me, he was very far. I was willing to be confident, be okay, and be raped 7 to 15 times a night instead of suffering the consequences of being alone again. And it becomes normal. And you think about an adult's normal life, go to work every day, tuck their children in at night. My normal was if I didn't make enough money for daddy and make the quota that he set for me, I was getting beat upside my head with a 45mm gun. My normal was not being tucked in at night. It wasn't reading a bedtime story. My normal was every single day waking up and making money for a man that I never received $1 for, being told what to eat, how to talk, when you was going to sleep, where you was going to go. That was my normal. My childhood, I didn't have a childhood. It was gone. That was my normal from 11 to 15 years old. By the time I was 12 years old, within a year, I was already raped over 4,000 times. It took me to be 4.5 years in the life until I was 15 years old for someone to finally step up and do something. And that was a man. His name is Jim Carson. And he was the first person in my life to tell me that I was a victim. It was never a choice. It's not a choice for these kids. Whether it was an influence, someone influenced them, whether it was somebody physically forced them into it, whether it was their circumstances, it's not a choice. It was not my choice. I didn't ask to be trafficked. I didn't wake up and that's what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. I wanted to be president of the United States, the first female president. There are children whose dreams and innocence was stolen and snatched from them. Children who need someone to fight for them because they can't fight for themselves. Children who need a voice for people to stand up and be a voice for them because they don't have it and they've lost it. Like, that's what organizations like Save Innocence does. Showing up when they don't expect you to and saying, I care about you, I'm here for you, and I'm not giving up on you. That's what these kids need. I was starting to see what hope looked like. There were these labels that were starting to be torn off me. This weak kid, like this angry kid, this bad kid. And I was starting to learn who Ori was. That weird kid Like that weird kid like means so much to me because that weird kid is normal. Like I was okay. Like I can be her. Like I can be friendly and not be called weird. I can be the life of the party and say crazy things and have this sense of humor without being afraid of what people are gonna think of me. I don't let my past define me because it's only a small part of my life. It doesn't define me because that's not who I am. To me, being bold is living life and not caring what people think. Like being fearless of sharing what I've been through and what God has got me through. And that doesn't define me. Everything that I went through in life was in order to be able to help someone else. Now, I got hired on as Saving Innocents about 1.5 years ago. So I go into the juvenile halls, the same juvenile halls I used to be at, and I get to work with the kids on prevention work. It's just this amazing feeling that I get to go back in the very places of where I found hope at and work with kids. I get to be that person that I didn't have when I was a kid. I'm not just this victim of sex trafficking. It's only a part of my story. That's all.
So that's it for my presentation. I'm here if anybody has any questions.
Thank you so much, Sergeant Jeff. That's a heavy topic, and I know people have to think about it. I had a lot of people say thank you in the chat room for just bringing that to our awareness. I know you may have questions, but our time is moving on. But before we, and this is, we're going to have our video. This is being videotaped, so it will be up on our website if you want to go back and review it and get information on how to contact Sergeant Jeffrey Walker. You can do that. This is a great time right now. Hold on, let me give you this. Yeah, take a deep breath. Just take a deep breath. I was reflecting on how important it is when we hear things like this, that we breathe, take a moment just to digest all that was shared, especially the last young lady's story, before we move on. Okay.
And you know what, Darrell, I think, we know that these are really difficult topics that sometimes we have to address. But I think it's important for our community to really get, learn about how to identify something, right? Like learn how, we may run across a case that just at a grocery store, and it's important for us in our community to know what steps we can take, who do we contact, what do we do? And as difficult as that is, I think it's really important information for us to have.
Mm-hmm. It is. And so again, thank you so much, Sergeant, for sharing that. We're going to move on.
My pleasure. Thank you both.
Yeah. This is also Mental Health Awareness Month. So I want to make sure that you acknowledge those that have mental health. If you know anyone, NAMI is available. Here's their contact information. Again, all of these slides will be made available on our website, so you can go back and review them, even sit with some friends, family members, and go through this video again. It's important. Next, we are going to have Kipp Mueller, and he's going to come share about the California redistricting and our upcoming primary elections. I'm going to turn this over to Tracy LaMonica, and she's going to introduce Kipp.
Thank you so much, Darrell. My pleasure to introduce Kipp Mueller, is a civil rights attorney and pro bono asylum attorney, as well as the regional director for Region 10 of the California Democratic Party. He is also a legal advisor for the NAACP and serves on the Los Angeles County Bar Association's Access to Justice Committee, where he has successfully fought for more legal aid services in the Antelope Valley. He's also sits on the board of directors for the Consumer Attorneys of California. We're so pleased to have him here today to speak about California redistricting. Kipp.
My pleasure. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Sgt Walker, for that presentation. I have no idea how to transition from that to this. These are very different topics, so just reset. Thank you, Darrell, for kind of giving us a moment to breathe. That was heavy. This is procedural. This is just the way that our constitutional system works. However, it is extremely important. And it's one of the most overlooked, most important processes that takes place in our democracy, and one that we need to be much better about being plugged in on. So I'm happy to provide background on redistricting in California specifically, but talk about kind of why it's so important as well. Let me share my screen real quick here. Okay, can you guys all see this, the redistricting basics? Okay, excellent. So, okay, so what is redistricting? All right, well, we all live in a congressional district, we live in a Senate district, we live in an assembly district. Senate and assembly being state level seats, congressional being a federal seat. And these lines around which district we're in are redrawn every 10 years. Why that's done is because the census occurs and we get a better grip of where everyone's located, what the populations look like. And then we have this important moment where we decide that we want our boundaries to be drawn fairly, to consider a number of things, and to make sure that all communities are heard in our democracy. There are a lot of states that, as we'll see in a little bit, take this process, which people hardly pay attention to, and use it to manipulate which districts are where in order to maximize their own power and protect their own. And when they do that, they disproportionately, almost always, negatively impact communities of color, and basically silence the voices of certain communities in order to protect their own seats and their own voices. But we'll get to that. So why we redraw, as you can see here, communities change, people move around, people are born, people die, communities grow and shrink. And so we have to take a step back and see what different areas look like and figure out how to draw our boundaries accordingly. I can't impress upon you enough how important this process is. It did just happen, so it's not coming up until 2030, but it's something that you need to be aware of and anticipate and get involved in from the start, especially here in California. Because as it says here, a lot of times we spend so much time on getting involved in elections. But if you allow the people who are in power to choose their own boundaries, then the elections don't even matter because they've already won. And so it's this process that gives the people the power to actually choose their electeds instead of the electeds choosing who they govern by taking over the redistricting process. So, as it says here, power to the people, champion your issues. Basically, when you get involved in redistricting and you make sure it fairly represents where you are, your voice actually gets heard. And we'll talk about the Antelope Valley in a little bit and what happened in terms of our redistricting that I believe is actually going to make a lot of new voices be heard from now on in the Antelope Valley, like many of yours that perhaps may not have been as fairly represented before, and I think will be more so now. So basically, this is just as I've mentioned, the census happens every 10 years. Then there's reapportionment across the country of where people are, and certain states get a number of congressional districts depending on how many people are in that state compared to the rest of the country. We actually lost a seat in California because our population did not grow at the same rate as other states around the country, a seat in Congress. And here's why it matters. So this is gerrymandering, and it's named after a guy last name Jerry who was involved in basically rigging elections by drawing the lines in a way that would maximize outcomes for him and his party. This was, I don't know, it was like 70 or 80 years ago on the East Coast. But it's named after, it's gerrymandering because of a salamander, because the way that his district was drawn was so bizarre that it almost looked like a salamander. And it's because he's excluding this community over here that he knows he's not going to get votes from, and he's including that community over there. And you can see examples of how that works here. So you can see my cursor, right, when I move it around? Okay, yeah. So you can take the same, here we have 60% orange, 40% purple. And it's supposed, you know, that it's kind of, think of it like the parties, Democrat and Republican. And fair ways to draw them would be, for example, you have 3 districts here that are orange and 2 that are purple, and you get 60% of the seats in power are orange, 40% purple, which fairly represents the ratio of Democrats or orange to purple in this district. There's other ways to draw the districts here where still you include orange with purple, but as it turns out, the way they're drawn, it does end up 3 orange, 2 purple, and you're good. This is gerrymandering, where what you can do is, for example, 60% of these of the people in these 5 districts are orange, but they control 100% of the seats. And the way you do it is it's called cracking, where you took the purple and you stuck just enough in each of these so they'd all be separated from each other and wouldn't be able to have a sufficient voice. And now you have 100% orange party controlling these seats, even though 40% of the people are purple. This happens again, often to communities of color. If you're not paying close attention, what they'll do is figure out ways to divide the communities of color that have a common interest into different districts so that their voice isn't loud enough in any of those districts. Cannot emphasize how impactful this is. Like, your political power is your voice. And if you allow this kind of gerrymandering to happen, you're silent in our political world. Representatives no longer feel the need to listen because they're worried about their reelection, and they know you don't have the power to do anything about it. And they didn't want you to, it looks like. So that's why being involved in this seemingly procedural, boring process is actually so incredible. It's not like I find this process and the procedure of it fascinating or fun. It's that I recognize the magnitude of it and how important it is. And you got to get involved in it. So, okay. So the California Constitution actually has requirements for what has to be considered when drawing districts. And by the way, we have a neutral redistricting commission in California, which is amazing. I think we get to that on the slide down here eventually, but most other states do not. And what happens is the state legislature chooses their own districts. And you can see there's such an obvious, ridiculous conflict of interest there. They're going to protect their own incumbency and they're going to protect their party. So whichever party's in power is going to have the chance to draw the lines as favorably as they can, to the point where federal courts have to intervene sometimes and call out racial gerrymandering, saying, you know, this is so racially gerrymandered, it's unconstitutional. This map is thrown out. But unfortunately, a lot of states still do get to do that gerrymandering. And if it's not racial and it's only partisan and they can show that, it's not unconstitutional and they can get away with it. So in order to fight that kind of gerrymandering, you have to actually show that it's race-based gerrymandering in order to be able to overcome it, which is really unfortunate because other democracies around the world have neutral redistricting commissions and don't allow the electeds to choose their own districts, which is such an obvious thing we should be doing. Luckily, again, we have it here in California. So here's the criteria that the redistricting commission has to follow. They have to make sure that the districts are of roughly equal population. They're not exactly equal. You want to include certain communities with their community, and sometimes it means you go a little bit over, a little bit under. There's a little bit of buffer allowed. The Voting Rights Act, they have to comply with the Voting Rights Act to ensure minorities have an equal opportunity to elect representatives of their choice. Again, that prevents the packing is one term for it. I don't know if this actually has an example of packing, but where sometimes what an elected will do is take communities of color and pack them into a single district so that they only get one seat. And then that way they get more seats total in the math. And then the other side is cracking, where they divide community of color or other communities that they don't want to see in power. So anyways, that's the Voting Rights Act ensures that minorities are protected. We have that in California. The districts also have to be drawn so that they're supposed to be, basically the districts aren't supposed to look like a salamander. They're supposed to be roughly, evenly drawn so that it's more obvious that they're not being rigged in certain ways to exclude and include. Then there's something called communities of interest that have to be taken into consideration. Communities of interest is a very vague, fungible, amorphous term, and it's intended to be, because different communities have different communities of interest. Sometimes it's the I-5, and making sure that, or the 14, and making sure that folks can get to LA, or where water comes from. Sometimes it's ethnicity, race, it can be all kinds of different things, but it's intentionally left vague, and folks have the chance to argue for how to protect their community of interest when dealing with this. Geographically compact, as we talked about, this is similar. So it has to do with the actual shaping of the district, and nesting districts. So when there's 2 assembly districts, they're supposed to sit within a Senate district ideally. So that's what they have to consider. At the state level, we have 4 types of districts that are redistricted every 10 years: is the congressional, state Senate, state assembly, and board of equalization, which has to do with collecting taxes. And there's just 4 districts. I'll talk about our state Senate, state assembly seats in a bit, as well as congressional. Counties also have a redistricting processes. Cities, school districts, water districts, community college, everybody does it. Okay, this is what I talked about already, so we can move through it. But essentially, it was propositions in 2008 and 2010 that created our Neutral Redistricting Commission, which is great. And interestingly enough, this is how the commissioners are selected. We don't have to talk about all that, but this was our last commission in 2020. There are as many Republicans as there are Democrats. And I do just point out the fact that that's actually, if anything, even more fair to Republicans than necessary, because our state isn't evenly divided in terms of Democrats and Republicans, which ultimately means that Republicans are more represented on this commission than Democrats are. So, which I think is fine in the sense that there's no problem with a party or interest that happens to be in the minority having equal representation. I think in the long run, we don't know where our state will go, and maybe it will become more Republican or Democrat. But it is just something to note that anybody on any side who argues that the Neutral Redistricting Commission is unfair, if anything, it would be Democrats that would have the standing to do so. And there's no party preference representation on it as well. 5 have to be Democrat, 5 Republican. They come from all different walks of life too, different geographies. I mean, they really do a good job of whittling down from 20,000 applicants down to the final 14. Okay, let me move through this. Let's, rather than talking about all this, because this just happened, but you get in, the public has a right to be involved in the redistricting process. It's all public meetings. You attend, you provide oral testimony, you can submit reports. And I know the Antelope Valley and Santa Clarita were both very active in doing so. That's that. So let me get real quick to our districts, and then I can take questions. I know that I just want to move it along so it's efficient, and also just hear what you guys are wondering about too. Let's see. We have, okay, so our district now is District 27, the congressional. It was District 25. This is what it looks like. And it is the registration, voter registration percentages are 41% Democrat, 29.5% Republican, 21.81% no party preference, which means it's about Democrat plus 12 as a district. It no longer has Simi Valley in it. whereas it did before, which made a pretty substantial difference here. And as pointed out, Tracy, thank you for making this, by the way. This is very helpful. I did not make this slideshow, but it's wonderful. And it points out it's an interesting district, especially where I am in Santa Clarita area, originally populated largely by white flight, but of course has become much more diverse and is shifting as a district. And we're seeing those results every year. The voter registration percentages are changing pretty significantly. One of the fastest changing regions in all of California. So that's us here. Congressional District 23 is now no longer, it used to creep into Lancaster. You guys may already know that. It no longer does. So everybody in the Antelope Valley is now unified in this congressional district, which was an important thing that a lot of communities were voicing during the redistricting commission, is why does the Antelope Valley get divided? And again, that goes back to dividing communities in order to limit their voices. So we were able to convince the redistricting commission that that was a problem, and now the Antelope Valley has one voice. I'll skip through these congressional districts. This is the state Senate district now. Full disclosure, I ran for it in 2020, and it is changed slightly. On the east side, the Apple Valley is no longer included, which was a pretty Republican heavy section of San Bernardino. And now it includes all of Santa Clarita over here, whereas it divided Santa Clarita before. It's the entire Antelope Valley as well. It's now a 40% Democrat, 30% Republican district, so Democrat plus 10. And again, is moving, like all of these districts, to include more Democrats by the year. And this isn't to talk about politics, just to tell you that this is relevant from a neutral standpoint of just what these districts look like, because that's how they're the communities of interest are apportioned, party is taken into account as well. So yeah, so this is about 40 to 30 Dem to Republican seat. The state assembly seats do divide the Antelope Valley in a really interesting way. I thought actually I would show, hold on one second. I think this is a pretty useful map to look at here. Here we go. So this is on the we draw the line ca.org, and it has some really helpful, you click final maps and you can see them. But here you can see, this line right here is where the two assembly seats divide. Interestingly, one assembly district seat looks like this. You can see the boundaries around here, cuts Lancaster and Palmdale in half here. It's 80-39. It's Democrat 47, Republican 21. No party preference 22. It is very likely that a Democrat will hold that seat in 2022. Over here on the west side of the Antelope Valley is AD34. It is Republican 39%, Democrat 31%. And it bizarrely stretches. This is one of the stranger districts in California now. It goes around up here and then all the way to the Nevada border over here. That is one of your districts in the Antelope Valley. I live, by the way, right over here in Santa Clarita. I'm in 8040 right here. But this goes, yeah, all the way out here, because there's not a lot of people out here, as you can imagine. But then comes into the Antelope Valley. So this seat is likely to be Republican. And it's likely that the Antelope Valley will have a Democrat and a Republican, both representing the west and east sides of it in 2022. This is a divide that they justified because the Senate and congressional seats both do include the entirety of the Antelope Valley. And they said, that's sufficient to make sure that the Antelope Valley does have a single voice in our state and federal government, which is true, but it's an interesting result. So that's what we're looking at. I don't know if I covered everything. I hope I did. I know that we're moving right along here, but I'm happy to answer any questions or whatever you guys want to do. And I thank you for taking the time to hear me out on this topic. Again, extremely important. Not the most fascinating thing in politics. When Roe versus Wade is being overturned, that's very interesting. That's very concerning to a lot of folks. That gets us engaged. There's fire in our belly. When we're talking about something like where lines are being drawn on a map, there's a little less fire in the belly naturally, but these processes play a critical role in how our democracy functions and whether all voices are heard properly. So
But I don't think I necessarily agree with you, Kipp, because I think it's fascinating. I love this.
okay,
stuff.
good. Oh, good.
But I'm a
Okay.
total nerd, and I know my
Good.
people will agree with me on that. But I mean, like you said, redistricting has an absolutely important,
Yeah.
place, because it is, like you said, it's actively, if we're doing the gerrymandering, it's pulling people apart. It's not being reflective. It's skewing it one way or the other. Not Republican or Democrat. So it's
Yep.
it's very, very important. So could I
Good.
tell you,
Okay,
because I know I'm the next portion and I'm the elections, could you just pull up the PowerPoint just so I could just go through my portion real quick?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I'm going to be handling the elections real quick, and I don't want to move us along, but I know we are at 11:20, so I do want to be mindful of everybody's time.
Yes, absolutely. 1 second. And
you're
thank
getting
you
a-
all.
Can I just say real quick, Tracy, sorry, that, I think it's so vital for us to know this information, because 9 months ago, a year ago, there were different people running because our districts were different, right? And
Yes.
so when you thought like, oh, let me look up these people, let me see who's running in my district, and now all of a sudden, like, whoa, it's somebody totally different. It's super important for our community to know that.
And actually, Kipp just had the portion that I was going to go over real quick. You just had it up, Kipp?
Yes, yeah, I'll come back. Yes.
Yeah, this is actually for the people here, and we will be sending this out, but this is the calmatters.org. That is where you can look up your address. And I actually did it with some of my colleagues, and they had different people, because as we mentioned, if you're in that east side of Lake LA, your representative might have changed. So this is a great opportunity for you to test it out, put in your email, and you can take a picture of it, but you don't need to write it down. We'll be sending this out to you. But again, that is where you can look it up, and also the maps. We Draw the Lines CA is where you can look at the maps and see what's going on out there. Like Kipp was showing you, it's that one is super weird, where it's just going to the edge of the California, and you're getting a lot of thank yous in the chat. So I'm just going to do my election part real quick. Just so you guys can aware, if we can go to the next slide, please. So we are in an election. It's not an exciting, sexy presidential election, but it is an election, and that is June 7th. It's right around the bend, and that's actually why we wanted to bring this to you, because it is coming. So next slide. So we have and you should have gotten it. I was just going to show you. If you didn't receive it, you should have gotten your official ballot in the mail. And so we are actually, except for the presidential, we are looking at a lot of the legislators that are up for elections. So we've got our U.S. state senator, and we are a nonprofit, so we do not endorse anyone. This is just informational only. So you are voting for a U.S. state senator. You're voting for your congressperson. So these are the elected officials at the federal level. Next. You are voting for a lot of state levels. So we have a lot of people that are running. You may know our governor, so that's probably the one position that people hear of, but there's a lieutenant governor, a treasurer, state assembly, secretary. All of these positions are elected officials that are at the state level. So that means they're state level entities that are running. So again, we're not endorsing anyone. We're just letting you know that these are positions that are in your ballot that are running. Next, we have the county. So the sheriff is running, the assessor, and the judges. And there's multiple judges at the superior county. But again, these are county entity that, again, they're LA County. We are under LA County jurisdiction. So they're county level positions that are running. And then last day to register to vote is June 7th is May 23rd. So that's right around the bend. So if you did not receive your ballot in the mail, please check the register-to-vote.ca.gov or the 1-800-345-VOTE, because we're not talking about Republican or Democrat. We just want you to vote. We want you to have a say in what's happening. So those are the places that you need to be at to get that in and to say, hey, where's my ballot? And then next is, again, June 7th is the statewide primary. Any registered voter can go to a county elections office in person. There is one only out here, and that is in West Lancaster. And so there's their phone number, there's their address, there's the time. They're right across on 16th Street, across from AV Hospital. So if you're familiar with that area, they're right around the bend from me. But again, we just want you to get out there and vote. Make sure that you've got your ballot. And again, if you've been voting for a while, it may be different this year as it was in the 2016 and 2020, because you can now vote anywhere. You can drop it off anywhere. So it's not in the olden days where you would go to that same place every, election. So just be aware. And we want you to vote. We want you to get out there. So if you haven't gotten your ballot, this is where you need to go to get that. And you can make that call or lavote.net. And finally, thank you so much. So again, thank you, Kipp, for the redistricting. I'm going to turn it back to my colleague, Darrell, to wrap up.
Thank you, everybody. Good to see you all.
Thank you, Kipp.
Thank you so much, Kipp. That was great information. And we have a lot of comments in the chat box saying thank you for that. We're going to continue on, everyone, because we are moving toward that time for our announcements. Give me 1 second. And it is that time. And we have a plethora of announcements. We're going to go through them. Again, I want to ensure that you will get these announcements. They will be mailed out to you, and they are also available on our website. So don't fear. If we go through them quickly, you will still have access to them. But these are some things we wanted to make sure that you were aware of. Okay. All right. We have our training that is coming up, our wellness training for parents and for providers. We will begin that training June 30th. From 10 to 11:30. We have several dates for that. So please go to our website. It will also be listed. You will get more information about this where you can sign up, and our flyers will be going out to you concerning this wellness training. Elena, I don't know if Elena is here. Is Elena here?
Liliana?
Liliana, I'm sorry. Liliana, are you here?
Yes, I am. Yes. Hi.
Hi, Liliana. Go ahead and take it away, girl.
Okay. So hi, I just want to thank you all for inviting me here to this meeting. I just wanted to talk to everybody a little bit about our school Options for Youth. What Options for Youth is, we are a safe environment. We are a free public charter school that is offering education to students that feel disconnected from their school or that are seeking a non-traditional environment. We have 2 locations. We have one in Palmdale and we have one in Lancaster. One of our philosophy is very simple. We believe that every student deserves a teacher who believes in them and an educational program that supports their individual needs. So basically, a lot of our school offers different. It's different to a traditional school. It's a school that offers blended learning, personalized support, a safe environment, college and career readiness. We offer sports and events. We also offer free international travel, connecting with nature, and we're experiencing history. And by travel, I mean the students here are able to go to different trips. They've gone to Italy, they've gone to Colorado, they've gone to, I believe they just went on an excursion to, I think they went to a few states. I think they went to Mississippi, somewhere south, where they learned to explore about different cultures. And all of these travels are free. So, it's something very different and very unique. Our students also get college tours. So anything that's getting them ready for the next step as well. Quickly, I know that we're running out of time. Who was able to attend? Students that are ages 14 and up, students that are seeking a non-traditional school environment, students that need extra support and motivation in their studies, students that are behind on their credits or would like to graduate early. Also teen moms who need that personalized support from caring staff. Any type of student that has different commitments in their outside schedules, this is a school we offer that flexibility. So it's definitely a very unique school. We are also a Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, which means that we want to prepare our students for life after high school. We prepare them towards their career paths, so they're asked to choose a path. Basically, we offer the career paths focus on their academic and occupational training. We help them with their student paths such as the health path, the helping path, the nature path, their building path, and their business path. So it is definitely something, we have our coordinators, our career coordinators here that guide them, helping with them with their resumes, helping them pick something that they can go to in their future. And I think living here in the AV, for so long, I think that a lot of our youth could definitely benefit from that, because we want to encourage them, we want to motivate them, we want them to succeed in high school and in life after high school. So I definitely feel that this program will assist them in that.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you.
So
Awesome.
yeah, so I'll put it down my email. It's probably on there too. So
Well, we have the flyers. We're going to send it
yes.
out.
Perfect.
Information. Liliana, you can drop your email address in the chat box so people who want to get in touch with you can.
Yes.
So awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me present. I know it's quick, but thank you.
No, but it's information.
Thank you so much.
Also, I just wanted, in light of what Sergeant Jeff shared, we do have the Antelope Valley Coalition Against Human Trafficking. Again, we'll share this flyer and information. They do meet bi-weekly in person and on Zoom. So we have that information, and I think that's a great one for us to notate and take advantage of if we need additional information. We have the Devil's Punch Bowl after the fire community workshops that are coming up. Take advantage of that in our Antelope Valley. We have Unity for Youth that will be taking place this Saturday. It will be the second annual AV Foster Care Awareness and Empowerment event. That's going to be at Youth Build. So if you have any youth, take advantage of that. They're going to have a lot of things going on with that. Then we have our Family Fun Day coming up on Juneteenth. So mark your calendars. That will be June 11th. That will be taking place at Enterprise Elementary School. Coming up for the Antelope Valley Best Start, we have our Antelope Valley Stakeholders Convening, which will be taking place June 2nd. Our Best Start regional meetings will be taking place June 16th, and our emotional wellness training, which will be on 2 days, June 28th and June 30th. Please enroll in those. Okay. Next month for our Best Start regional meeting in June, we have our guest speaker. She will be coming, Lily Trujillo. How do you say that name? Trujillo. So she's going to be our guest speaker. Yay. And from that wonderful presentation from our AVPH partners, just scan it. Don't be scared. Just scan it. You can enroll and sign up for our regional meetings. Just scan me. Yeah. Again. Now, thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for staying. I know we were a little behind our time, but we greatly appreciate you coming. You could spend your morning any place else. Thank you so much for being a part of our Best Start regional meeting and family.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Gracias.
Thank you.
Everyone.